Federal budget deal or no budget deal? $33 billion in cuts is not enough. In a Kudlow exclusive interview today, House Majority Leader Eric Cantor told me no deal. Please take a listen. All right, we welcome back to the show House Majority Leader Eric Cantor from Virginia. Mr. Cantor, thank you for coming back on the Kudlow Report.
Larry, it's great to be on.
Let me just ask you what's become a front-page story, and that is the budget cuts for the continuing resolution. $33 billion is being bandied about as a deal between Republicans and Democrats, but everybody's confused. Speaker Boehner said this morning there is no deal. Can you clarify this for us?
Well, I can say with definitive answer, there is no deal. We, as House Republicans, have insisted that we have been elected to try and get the government's fiscal house in order. We know that we've got a deficit this year alone of $1.6 trillion. What we're saying is let's go and try and reduce this year's spending back to 08 levels, which would accomplish that $61 billion in savings that we're looking for. So, yes, there's a lot of talk about some number being out there. That number is not the $61 billion we're looking for.
Well, it's interesting. You've got two sides here. Former DNC Chair Howard Dean, who's a CNBC contributor, he says he's rooting for a shutdown because that'll damage Republicans. And then on the other side, you've got the Tea Party patriots massing at the Capitol for you all to stick to your guns on $61 billion. Who's going to win this tug of war?
Well, yeah, I don't think any of us want to see the government shut down. We just want to cut spending. But the House has spoken on this matter several times. We'll speak again tomorrow when we put a bill on the floor, which essentially says to the Senate this: we've acted. You know where our position is. We expect to see $61 billion in cuts. What is your position? Harry Reid and the Democrats in the Senate have been unable to produce anything on the Senate floor. It seems to me that there are two options right now. You either cut spending or you raise taxes. So what we've said is if Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer can't come up with their desired way to cut spending, then show the American people how they expect to carry this debt and deficit. Show us how you're going to raise taxes. Let's let the American people see that.
In the discussions, the policy defunding, for example, of Obamacare, what is the House position? What is your leadership position? Will there be a policy defunding in any continuing resolution?
We have a plan to go about defunding, delaying the implementation of Obamacare. The Democrats knew when they passed that bill there would need to be forward appropriations to fund the agency rulemaking process. We intend to continue to stick to our commitment to defund that process. We are going to do that all the while wishing that we could repeal this bill. The problem is the president's in the White House. I don't believe that he'd sign a repeal bill, and frankly, I don't believe the Harry Reid Senate is going to necessarily take up a repeal bill.
All right, last one. Paul Ryan's going to have his budget strategy, his budget proposal in a week or two. I want to ask you if Mr. Ryan will include, along with entitlement cutting and domestic cutting, will he have the kind of pro-growth initiatives that you yourself put out in a speech in California last week? Tax reform for growth, regulatory reform for growth. Will Mr. Ryan echo your pro-growth ideas?
Larry, I don't think there's any doubt in the fact that Paul Ryan and his committee are going to produce a budget which reflects our view of how we believe this country should go forward. Not only is there the necessary dose of fiscal discipline, which we all know needs to occur, but there will be a focus and a broad framework laid out in that document which speaks to the need for us in this country to return to what we do best, and that is to innovate, to compete, and to grow.
So in other words, will there be a dose of tax-cutting Reaganism in the Ryan budget? After all, the economy's recovery is very sluggish. Unemployment remains high. Will Ronald Reagan appear in the Ryan budget as Reagan appeared in your California speech?
Well, you can stay tuned for the details, but I can tell you, we understand it's wrong for American companies to be paying as high of a corporate rate that they are, because we are in essence tying their hands behind their back, expecting our American-based companies to win the fight. And so we've got to bring the corporate rate down to 25%. You know that I have proposed making sure that although that process may take some time, there are some steps we can take in the interim. We can lower rates right now and provide an incentive for American-based multinationals to bring profits back now and pull them into this economy so we can see ourselves grow right away.
All right, we'll leave it there. House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, we thank you very much for coming back on.
Thank you, Larry.